Hey there, and welcome to Family Revenge. We're so glad you're here. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can stay with us for every twist and turn. Let's jump right in. They called my name, and I stepped up to the stage smiling like it meant something. I had the little piece of paper in my hand, my paramedic certification, the crowd clapped, someone whistled, and all I could think about was that empty damn seat in the second row. Everyone else was hugging their parents, their siblings, girlfriends, whatever. People were holding flowers, taking family pictures, crying. I just stood there with my phone in my hand, trying to act like I wasn't checking it for the 10th time. Nothing. No text. No, sorry we're running late. No call. That seat had my last name taped to it. I asked the coordinator to set it aside just in case. Stupid, right? Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. It was deja vu, 16 years old. I came downstairs on my birthday to a card on the kitchen table. No cake, no balloons, no one home. Meanwhile, Belle was out back with her brand new horse, saddle already broken in, music blasting from the barn where they threw her some big party 2 months earlier. She was 13 then, and somehow, that was worth a whole damn weekend celebration. They were always busy when it was my turn. EMT graduation, I called mom the night before, asked if they were coming. She said Belle had regionals in Louisville. Couldn't miss it. You understand, right? This is big for her. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Just kept nodding like an idiot until she hung up. So yeah, standing there at 24 years old in a room full of cheers and hugs, I just smiled for the photographer and tucked the paper into my bag. I didn't want to answer the "where's your family" question again. I already knew how I'd respond. Busy. Always were. I stepped outside as the sun dropped behind the parking garage, still holding the envelope, still trying to swallow that bitter, familiar taste. Then my phone rang. Unknown number, local area code. I almost ignored it. Thought maybe it was spam or some post-grad recruiter. Hello? Hi, is this Clay Moore? The voice said. Older man. Calm. Professional. Yeah, who's this? This is Jeremy Walden. I'm an attorney handling your grandparents' estate. I have some information that may come as a surprise. Do you have a minute? I froze on the sidewalk. I hadn't even known they passed. Yeah, I said. Go ahead. Your grandparents left the entire estate to you, he said. I couldn't speak at first, my fingers clenched around the strap of my bag like I was bracing for something to hit me. The house, he went on like he was reading from a list. All vehicles, liquid assets, investment accounts, everything. Current valuation puts it at just over 2 million. I blinked hard. You're sure? Yes, he said. Calm like this kind of thing happened every day. They specified your full name. There's a video, Will. It's clean. Legally airtight, I leaned against the railing outside the auditorium. My legs felt unsteady, like I'd just stepped off a damn roller coaster. I hadn't even known they were sick. Nobody told me anything. Last I saw them was a few months ago. Grandpa had me check the heater. Grandma sent me home with a pie she burned but still insisted was fine. They always spoke highly of you, the lawyer said. Said you were the only one who ever showed up when it wasn't convenient. He wasn't wrong. Every Saturday I wasn't working. I drove out to that lake house, fixed their back steps when they rotted through, changed out light bulbs, cleaned gutters, ran into town for groceries. Nothing huge, just stuff they needed done. I never thought about what I was owed for it. I just did it. They were good to me when I was a kid. I remembered that. Meanwhile, Belle and my parents showed up when the weather was perfect, when the lake sparkled enough for Instagram and the burgers were already on the grill. I'd be wiping down windows or fixing the busted lawn chairs, and they'd be taking group photos like they lived there full time. I finally took a breath. So, what now? I'd recommend you come into the office, he said. We'll need signatures, a few documents. From there, we can start the transfer process. I nodded slowly. Yeah, okay. I can come by this week? Good. I'll send the address and a packet to your email. Expect it in the next hour. I hung up and stood there staring at nothing. A gust of wind pushed a few leaves across the sidewalk. I could still hear people laughing and celebrating inside, and here I was with $2 million landing in my lap and no one to tell. Not that I'd tell them anyway, not yet, not even my coworkers. I already knew exactly how this would go the second anyone in my family found out. They'd smile, they'd call, they'd suddenly remember my number. Belle would act like we were best friends. Mom would pull out her guilt voice. Dad would start dropping by just to help with maintenance, like hell they would. I walked to my truck and sat behind the wheel without starting it. All I could see was the lake, shimmering, quiet, peaceful. The way it looked early in the morning before Belle's Bluetooth speaker wrecked the calm. Before my parents started talking about investment potential and maybe we'll add a deck, I'd never owned anything before. Not like this, not something that mattered. I pulled up my email, nothing yet. But I knew the lawyer wasn't bluffing. My grandparents were old school. They did everything by the book, and if they wanted me to have it, just me, then that meant they saw what I saw. They knew who showed up when it counted. Let them find out. Let them call me. I'd be ready. The email hit my inbox by the time I got home. I read it twice, then I read it again. It felt too big for the screen. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I just lay there thinking about what it meant. 2 million. The lake house. My name. On all of it. I didn't feel lucky. I felt alert, like something had just started ticking. The next morning, I started calling around for a financial lawyer. Found one by lunch. His name was Doug Holden, late 50s, wore short-sleeved dress shirts, and carried a pen in his shirt pocket, like he was allergic to nonsense. When I sat down in his office and told him everything, he didn't blink. First step, he said, is making this all invisible. Invisible? Private trust. No public records, no family signature required. You'll be protected legally and financially, but it's gotta be clean and done right from day one. That's all I needed to hear. We set up the trust under a name that meant nothing. Maddox Lake Holdings, LLC. The house, the accounts, the car, the stocks, the insurance, all transferred in. By the time we were done, the paper trail was tight as concrete. I signed the last page and slid the folder back across his desk. Now what? I asked. Doug looked up from his screen. Now? You wait. Live quiet. Don't give anyone anything they can grab onto. I nodded. You planning on telling your family? No, I said. They don't ask unless they want something. Doug smirked. Smart man. The next couple weeks, I didn't say a word to anybody. Not at work. Not to my old roommates. Not even to Brandon, who I used to trust more than my own blood. I didn't want congratulations. I wanted silence. I paid off my truck, changed my number, cleared out my old savings account, and rerouted everything into the trust. Every piece of mail, every payment, every legal contact now had a new name attached to it that no one recognized. It felt weird, sure, like I was scrubbing myself off the map, but it also felt like power. I walked through the lake house alone one evening, right after the final paperwork cleared. I ran my hand along the kitchen counter where Grandma used to roll out pie crust. The window panes I'd replaced 2 winters ago were still holding solid. No one knew. No one needed to. It hit me right then, standing in that kitchen, how far outside their reach I'd moved, not just legally, emotionally, financially, completely. They couldn't touch this. They wouldn't even see it coming. 2 days later, Belle texted me, first time in months. Hey, are you ever out at the lake house these days? Just wondering. I stared at it for a minute, then locked my phone. No answer. Not yet. Next morning, my phone rang around 10. Mom. I let it buzz twice before picking up. Hi, honey, she said, way too sweet. Just thinking about you. How's everything going? Fine, I said. There was a pause, like she wanted me to fill the silence. I didn't. So, have you, thought about what's next for the place? She finally asked. The place? The lake house. It's a lot of property. Big responsibility. Have you considered all your options? Yeah, I said. I have. Another pause. Well, that's good. Just know we're here to help however we can. You shouldn't have to manage everything alone. I'm not. That shut her down quick. We hung up 2 minutes later. By Friday, I pulled up to the house and saw my dad's truck already parked out front. He was leaning against it with a damn toolbox in hand. I didn't get out. I just sat there and watched him. Eventually, he walked up to my window and knocked. I rolled it down. Figured I'd fix that shed door for you, he said. Hinges looked loose last summer. I looked at the shed, then looked at him. I already fixed it. He gave me a short laugh like we were old buddies. Yeah, well, could still use reinforcement. Just trying to be useful. You don't need to. He didn't leave right away. Stood there like he expected an invite inside. I didn't give him one. After a long second, he nodded and went back to his truck. Didn't even open the toolbox. The next week, Belle showed up, knocked on the front door with a Tupperware full of muffins. I just made too many, she said, smiling like we hadn't grown up in 2 separate households under one roof. Thought you might want some. They're blueberry. I took the container but didn't invite her in. She shifted her weight, playing with her hair. So, what's the process like for switching deeds and stuff? Like, is that complicated? Or are you just waiting on some paperwork? I raised my eyebrows. Why? She shrugged. No reason, just curious. It's all so official. I kept my tone flat. Everything's handled. She blinked a little too fast. Oh, cool. After that, it was like a game of tag. Mom called again the next day, asking if I'd given more thought to the future of the house. Dad dropped by once a week with random tools or excuses. Belle came with banana bread and vague questions about property taxes. And always the same phrase: just want to help. They started using the word we like it meant something. We just think it makes sense to keep this in the family. We could manage it together? You could always get a place in town. Easier commute, right? I smiled, every time, calm, nodding, giving them just enough to feel like they were getting somewhere. But inside, I was keeping score. The fake kindness, the sudden interest, the soft manipulation, it was all so textbook I could have screamed. They wanted in, and I knew exactly why. Because deep down, they knew they'd screwed up. And now they saw a chance to fix it. Not with apologies, not with effort, but with control, not happening. The first thing I noticed was how quiet it was. No wind, no birds, just that sharp morning air that hits different when fall starts creeping in. I just stepped out onto the porch with my coffee when I saw the car pull up. It wasn't one of them this time. It was all of them. Belle got out first, smiling too wide. Mom followed, holding a manila folder like it was a damn briefcase. Dad trailed behind with his hands in his jacket pockets, head down like he was just here for the ride. I didn't move, just watched them walk up the steps like they owned the place already. Belle cleared her throat. Hey, Clay. I nodded. Morning. She held up the folder. So, we figured it'd be best to just make this official. The house is in my name now. It's cleaner that way. Easier for everyone. I stared at her. Is that right? Mom jumped in fast. There was a correction filed last month. Something about the original will not reflecting updated intentions. Simple paperwork stuff. Took a while to process, but we've got the finalized version now. Dad reached into his jacket and pulled out a stack of papers. Here, he said, handing them to me. You'll want to look these over. I took them. The first thing I noticed was the font. Wrong. Too bold. Too modern. Then the seal. Looked like someone dragged a stamp through a copier. The notary signature was typed, not signed. Dates were mismatched, wording inconsistent, and the letterhead looked like it had been slapped together in Microsoft Word. But I didn't say a word. I flipped through the pages slowly, nodding like it all made sense. Belle stepped closer. We just want to avoid any confusion. I mean, no offense, Clay, but managing a whole estate is a lot. This way the house stays in the family and there's no drama. Right, I said. Mom smiled like we were on the same page. We knew you'd understand. I looked at them. Belle in her tight black jacket, Dad rocking the same worn jeans he always wore when he wanted to look approachable. Mom standing stiff like she was the one running the show. They really thought this was going to work. Thanks for bringing it by, I said. Belle relaxed. We'll give you a few days, but the transfer's basically already done. Just a formality now, I nodded. Sure. They stood there a second longer, like they expected me to invite them in, offer coffee, maybe ask how they were. I didn't, just kept my expression neutral and my arms crossed. Finally, they turned and walked back to the car. Belle waved like we were close. They drove off slow, like they didn't want to seem like they were fleeing the scene, but they were. I stood on the porch a long time after they left. The papers were still in my hand. I flipped to the second page again. The fake notary ID number was actually missing 2 digits. Total amateur hour. They thought I was stupid, or maybe they just hoped I was still desperate enough for connection to go along with it. Either way, they came in loud and left smug, which was exactly what I wanted. Because now I knew what they were willing to do, and I was just getting started. They came back 4 days later. This time, they brought a moving truck. I heard the diesel engine before I even saw it, grumbling down the gravel drive like it had a purpose. I stepped onto the porch with my coffee in hand, same as before. Only this time, I wasn't alone. The records clerk pulled in right behind them in his little county-issued Ford Escape. His name was Carl Moore, no relation, and he walked like he had a badge, even though he didn't. Just a manila folder under one arm and a job to do. Belle jumped out of the truck first, grinning like she'd won something. She was in leggings and a hoodie, like she was ready to nest. Mom followed her with a clipboard. Dad stayed behind the truck, directing the driver like this was all a done deal. Morning, Belle called, waving like I was the help. We're just gonna grab a few things, maybe start organizing the upstairs for paint samples. I didn't answer. Carl stepped up beside me, calm as ever. You Clay? Yep. He nodded once, then walked right past me toward the circus. Excuse me, he said, raising his voice just enough. I need to speak to whoever's claiming ownership of this property. That got their attention. Mom turned fast. Belle froze halfway up the porch steps. I'm sorry, who are you? Mom asked, holding her clipboard like it made her important. Carl Moore, records clerk for Jasper County, he said, flipping open his folder. I'm here to confirm ownership records and notify involved parties of legal standing. Belle laughed. We already took care of that. The will was updated. Our lawyer handled it. Carl didn't blink. No, he didn't. I've reviewed all public and sealed documentation. The property is held in a private trust under Maddox Lake Holdings, LLC, with Clay Moore as sole trustee and beneficiary. Everything's in order. Recorded, notarized, and protected. She blinked like she didn't understand the words. Carl continued, flipping a page toward them. This is the original certified record of the estate's transfer. Time-stamped, witnessed, notarized by a registered state official. Anything else is irrelevant, and based on what I've been informed of, potentially criminal. That's when Belle snapped. Oh, come on, she said, throwing her arms up. It was a mistake. We didn't forge anything. We were just trying to make it easier. We're family. Carl turned the page calmly. The documents you submitted are missing required authentication. The seal's invalid. The date's conflict. There's no notary log. This isn't a clerical mistake. It's forgery. Mom stepped forward like she could fix it with a look. This isn't necessary. We can work this out privately. Carl closed the folder. You tried to reassign a deed that was never yours. That's not private. It's illegal. Dad was still standing by the moving truck, not saying a word. He didn't even look at me. He just rubbed the back of his neck like he'd finally felt the weight of how deep they were in it. Belle's face turned red. This house should have stayed in the family. Grandpa didn't know what he was doing. Carl cut her off. Ma'am, the video will shows him reading every clause out loud. With full clarity, he named Clay. That's not up for debate. Nobody said anything for a while. The moving guy, clearly just hired off Craigslist or wherever, looked from me to Carl, then back at the truck. Y'all still want me to unload, or? Dad muttered. No. Get back in. Belle spun around, stomped down the steps, and slammed the passenger door hard enough to rattle the whole cab. Mom didn't speak, just stared at me, like maybe if she held eye contact long enough, I'd change my mind. I didn't flinch. Carl turned to me. Anything else you need me to verify while I'm here? Nope, I said. That was perfect. He nodded once and headed back to his SUV. I stood on the porch and watched the truck reverse out of the drive, slow, heavy, dragging disappointment behind it like a trailer full of bad intentions. I didn't say much. I didn't need to. The envelope showed up exactly 1 week later. Cream-colored, thick paper, real formal, like a wedding invite from someone who doesn't actually like you. It had my mom's lawyer's name stamped on the corner in raised lettering. I stood at the kitchen counter, just staring at it. My gut already knew what it was. I opened it with the back of my pocket knife. The letter was 4 pages long and full of crap. They wanted money, monthly support, like I owed them a pension. They demanded partial ownership of the house, citing ongoing emotional and familial investment. And the best part? They accused me of undue influence over a mentally declining elder. Translation? They were trying to spin it like I manipulated Grandpa into cutting them out. I laughed. A real, hard, full-chest laugh. Then I called Tessa. I found her through Doug. He said she handled high-conflict estate fights and made people cry in court without even raising her voice. She picked up on the second ring. This is Tessa Moore. Clay Moore. I've got a situation. I gave her the rundown. Sent over scans of the letter within the hour. She called me back that afternoon. Do not respond to them directly, she said, voice sharp and clear. I'll have a cease and desist out within 48 hours. You'll be fully protected under the trust. Appreciate it. And Clay, she added, this is war now, so let's treat it like one. Her team moved fast. The cease and desist was brutal. She used phrases like fraudulent legal coercion and bad faith intent like she'd been waiting to pull them out of her holster. She didn't leave room for negotiation, just facts, threats of court, and a clear warning to back off. Then she dug deeper. 3 days later, she called again. We traced the fake deed submission to Belle's IP address, she said. She uploaded it to the county's online portal using her own login from her realtor internship. Amateur move. That's felony-level fraud if we want to pursue it. I sat there at the dining table, holding the phone to my ear with one hand and flipping through the file copies with the other. Every signature, every fake seal, every mismatched date, it was all there, labeled, organized, and tied directly to Belle. You want to press charges? Tessa asked. Not yet, I said. Just keep everything. Already done. I printed 2 sets of everything. One went into a fireproof safe in the back room. The other went into a locked cabinet at Tessa's office. If they wanted to come after me again, fine. But now there'd be a paper trail straight back to their door. That letter, that dumb little envelope they thought would scare me, it ended up doing the opposite. I felt calm, focused, like the fog had finally lifted. I didn't expect them to stop. But now, I wasn't scared of them anymore. It started with a text from my cousin Derek. Thought you should hear this. Attached was a voice recording. I hit play without thinking. My mom's voice came through, sharp and confident, like she wasn't even trying to whisper. He knew Grandpa was slipping. That's how he pulled it off. Got him to sign everything while he was confused. It's not just shady, it's sick. She paused, then added, he's always had that manipulative streak. You just don't see it till you're on the outside. I sat there on the edge of the couch, listening to it twice. Once for shock, once for detail. She didn't know Derek had been standing right there in the kitchen. He'd left his phone on the counter recording, while she went off to one of my aunts. That was her mistake. 10 minutes later, he forwarded me screenshots from the family group chats. Belle had been busy. She told everyone I'd isolated our grandparents in their final years, said I pressured them to cut ties, claimed I hid the will from the rest of the family. They were rewriting the whole story in real time, and people were buying it. I didn't even feel angry at first, just tired. Like watching someone break into a house you already locked down. I sent everything to Tessa, the voice memo, the group chat caps, even the little side comments from distant cousins acting like I'd turned into some kind of greedy monster. She called right back. This is straight-up defamation, she said, but we're not going to sue, yet. We'll hit back publicly. Truth, clean, and cold. Let's do it, I said. Her team put together a 3-page PDF, timeline of events, dates of the will signing, the notary log, screenshots of Belle's forged filings with metadata, my bank statements showing grocery runs and repair receipts from the last 5 years, even video stills of Grandpa signing his will, voice clear, eyes sharp, no insults, no name-calling, just receipts. I wrote a cover note myself, kept it simple. Some of you have been told a version of events that isn't true. I'm sharing this to set the record straight. No drama, just facts. I sent it to every relative who'd been involved in the group chats. Some read it within the hour, others sat on it. The apologies trickled in first. Derek texted, "Didn't know it was that solid. Sorry for doubting you," Aunt Susan messaged. "I believed what your mom told me. I was wrong," but then came the double downs. Belle posted a passive-aggressive Facebook status about how some people weaponize money when they've got nothing else. My mom went silent, but I could see her typing in the chat, then stopping, like she was trying to figure out her next move. 3 cousins blocked me altogether. Fine by me. The weirdest part was the quiet. No more phone calls, no muffins, no toolbox visits. Just a long stretch of nothing from the people who used to show up when it benefited them. They weren't done, just stunned. They thought I'd roll over, thought I'd be embarrassed. But I wasn't. I watched the silence spread like smoke. They were regrouping, and I was still standing. Derek texted me again, like he couldn't help himself. Belle just got hired at Seaside Lux Realty. High-end stuff. They sell million-dollar beach houses. I stared at the message for a minute. Seaside Lux. I'd seen their ads. White linen, champagne tours, fake smiles, and drone shots. It almost made me laugh. She lied, forged documents, tried to steal a house that wasn't hers, and still landed a luxury real estate job like nothing happened. Nah. I pulled the file from the safe. Every forged document, every notarized original, Belle's fake deed submission with her IP metadata. I dropped it into a clean, anonymous email and sent it straight to Seaside Lux's corporate ethics inbox. No note, no signature, just the truth. 4 days later, their website pulled her bio, gone like it was never there. Derek confirmed it first. She's out. Internal review. Clients pulled their listings. Then the licensing board email hit my spam folder. Formal notice. We have opened an active case regarding a fraudulent deed submission tied to licensee Belle Moore. I forwarded it to Tessa. She called me laughing. Now we're getting somewhere. But Belle didn't go quiet. A week later, I opened the local paper's website and saw the headline, Family Dispute Over Estate Turns Personal. Realtor claims brother used wealth to ruin her life. The article was weak. Her lawyer spun some sob story about a misunderstanding and said I had a long history of jealousy over Belle's close relationship with her grandparents, claimed I was punishing her out of spite. They called me for comment. I didn't respond. Tessa did. She handed them notarized copies of the will, timestamps of every filing, metadata tracking the forged deed to Belle's own login, and a clean list of cease and desist letters we'd sent weeks ago. The journalist barely updated the piece, just added a footnote about conflicting documentation and a vague legal warning. Then it disappeared from the site altogether by the next morning. I never saw Belle's name in print again. No more interviews, no more Facebook posts, no calls, no texts, no drive-bys. It was just silence. And I knew what that meant. They were out of moves. The final letter came in a plain white envelope. Different firm this time. Not the one Mom used for the threats and demands. This was clean, clipped, and to the point. All claims formally withdrawn. No further contact will be made unless legally required. That was it. No signature from them, no apology, no explanation. I didn't celebrate. Didn't pour a drink or call anyone. I just filed it away with the rest of the garbage they'd sent, shut the drawer, and packed a bag. The lake house was quiet when I pulled in. Mid-October, trees going burnt orange and deep red. Air crisp enough to see my breath when I stepped out of the truck. The water looked like glass, flat and cold, not a ripple. I carried my bag up the front steps and unlocked the door. Still smelled like pine cleaner and old wood. I walked through the kitchen, dragging my hand across the counter where Grandma used to press cookie cutters into dough, always humming off-key. That little photo frame still hung by the hallway, her in a wide-brimmed straw hat, holding a fish she was too scared to touch. Grandpa behind her, laughing. I touched the railing by the stairs, the one I replaced last fall when it started to give. Still solid, still mine. Upstairs was untouched, guest beds made. Hall light blinking from a loose bulb I already knew how to fix. I didn't rush, just moved slow through each room like I was reminding the house I hadn't gone anywhere. Finally, I stepped out onto the porch and sat down. Wood creaked under my boots, wind slid through the trees. No voices, no fake concern, no more pounding on the door. Just silence. Real silence. I exhaled and looked out over the lake. This place didn't belong to the Moore family anymore, not the way they wanted it to. It belonged to the ones who showed up. Now I get to decide who gets through that door, and it stays closed unless I open it.